Hello everyone, welcome to another video. As you may see by the title, today we are going to speak about the Odyssey. I know it has been the most hyped subject online, and last weekend I also saw the movie. So I wanted to kind of introduce the real Odyssey, or at least the one that is described in the book, because from my perspective, the movie itself was a very much kind of sustaining the fact that the people watching the movie would have read the book. I have seen some videos online as well saying that no, but the main goal is to make the people read the book or make them interested in the book. I don't know what the main goal is, but here we are. If you haven't watched the video or the movie, that's what I mean. I am here to introduce you to the actual poem and what is happening in the poem realistically, so then maybe you can understand what kind of changes were made, and again, we can go from there. I will be sprinkling my own opinion here and there, so if you don't like it, you can just skip it, and obviously, you can just leave at any point. So, anyway, let's just go into it. I'm also trying to film this video without a script. I did read the Odyssey quite a few times, and in the past we also touched during some Greek mythology reading on the happenings of the Odyssey and also of the Iliad. But my main goal is to make this video without the script. I do have like some bullet points here on the side, so there we go. You know it. You have been warned. And I'm also trying to speak faster because I've been rewatching my past videos, and the fact that I speak so slow is just annoying AF to me. So there we go. This video is gonna go great. Anyway, let's start from the beginning. And the beginning is actually the Iliad. So if you don't know, Homer did wrote two poems that are majorly famous. I guess he wrote more things, but these are the two that are the most known. And that is the Iliad and the Odyssey. The Iliad has many happenings as well, but it ends in the war in Troy, or at least the Greeks trying to capture Troy. And of course, it is coming from the whole story of Helen of Troy. Oh, Helen of Troy? No, Helen that did go to Troy with Paris, okay? But she was married to Menelao. And Menelao has a brother. That brother is Agamemnon. There we go. So Agamemnon, it had been quite a while that he wanted to attack Troy and to conquer Troy, and that was a huge opportunity to him. So both of them, we really don't know, depending on the myth. Helen did run away with Paris willingly, or on the other hand, there are versions that say that she ran away unwillingly. We don't know. Either way, Menelao went to his brother Agamemnon, said, "Oh my gosh, help." And Agamemnon was happy to help. So they gathered all the city-states from Greece. That is how Greece was structured at the time. So basically, they had this city-states just spread around. We know some of them are very famous. So Sparta is one of them. Ithaca, where Odyssey is from, is another one. Athens, of course, is another one. But just to make my point, they gathered all the city-states and they went to war with Troy. That war lasts for 10 years, where nobody was really winning anything. So Troy had really good defenses, and Greeks were just not able to break through those defenses. And even though they had a lot of people in the army, including Achilles, the hero or the best warrior. It didn't really make any difference because, again, nobody was winning anything at the time. So we have Odysseus, who was the brains of the operation. Apparently, I don't know if that's brains of the operation or just I don't know, master of cruelty or something like that. Not wanting to spoil my opinion about this whole shebang, but he was like, you know what, let's use something very, very nefarious and to try to basically penetrate the unbreakable walls of Troy. So the Trojan horse, of course, very famous. They left it on the beach and they supposedly left while did not leaving at all. So they hit people in the Trojan horse. Again, not wanting to go too much into details. And the Trojan horse was taken into Troy, where they opened the gates and let the army in. And obviously, that was a devastating event because the Troy itself was kind of celebrating that the war is over. So I'm kind of suspecting that they did not suspect that or prepared for an invasion of that size. And so, obviously, as we can imagine, it must have been a massacre. Just to kind of also mention this, both Iliad and the Odyssey are just fiction works, right? They are not based on real events, although some historians may argue that there were certain events that happened that could have been reflected or kind of inspired both the Iliad or and the Odyssey, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it actually happened. Everything that is said, because we have many things involved, right? Like we have many gods involved in the happenings. Not only that, but let's say, for example, Achilles himself was kind of demigod as well. Either way, that just to kind of highlight that it's not real events, okay? Anyway, now that we have that out of our way, that's the introduction or like end of Iliad and then introduction to the Odyssey, right? So the war was won by the Greeks. They were leaving Troy, and that's where the journey of Odyssey happens. Just a kind of maybe introducing a little bit of my movie review. I'm not going to mention too many spoilers of the movie, although obviously if I'm going to tell you the story of the Odyssey, the movie does differ from the actual Odyssey, but I mean, I've already warned you, right? So there are going to be a lot of spoilers here. Either way, something that I wanted to kind of touch on regarding the movie itself, I'm speaking about the Nolan's movie, the recent one that came out. I thought that the movie was meh. I did think that it was too long, but I mean, obviously, it's the Odyssey, right? It's so many chapters in the Odyssey, you can't really make it a short movie. I did think that, and I'm going to sprinkle here and there other opinions, but for this section regarding the war of Troy and the Agamemnon himself and Menelao as well, and what happened, whatever, I did think that Agamemnon was the only one who was represented quite a bit more looking like God, like a god, basically godlike person, which is not the case. Agamemnon is not a god. And I thought that was weird because he had this imposing aura in the movie, again, looking very different from everyone else. Like, there was absolutely nobody else in the movie who looked and had the same aura as Agamemnon. And I was like, okay, but why is he the only one who looks like that? And I don't know, maybe there is an idea behind it. I just thought that maybe it was Nolan kind of simping over Agamemnon or whatever, but it's just my opinion. So I am going to also say that I very much dislike the fact that all the gods and all the creatures that are kind of mythical creatures were very much diminished in the movie. Again, comparing to Agamemnon, everyone else, including Athena, who shows up quite a few times, didn't really look much godlike or goddess-like. But anyway, okay, let's start with the journey. So, Odysseus leaves Troy, and instead of going with all the ships following the same route, they decide to follow their own by his own advice. So I do believe that he is guiding quite a few ships, and then, they just keep decreasing in numbers. But so the first city where they take land after Troy is the city of Ismarus. Exactly. And that is the city where the Cicons live. The Cicons are allies with Troy. So, as you may imagine, they are not very happy with the arrival of the Greeks. It doesn't really matter that, Troy was destroyed. It's just that, again, they had the alliance with the Trojans. So, they fight. The Greeks kind of win for a little bit of time, but then the Cicons, they go outside and find help, and then they come back. So basically the Greeks are, again, my opinion, right? I also don't get it. Why didn't you get food and stuff enough from Troy? You just conquered that huge city. Couldn't you just take whatever you needed for the journey and just go your happy way? No, they had to go and kind of destroy things on their way. And that's why my opinion of this whole Greek shebang and the Odyssey, the Iliad, is very negative on how these people were behaving. So there we go. And also, who goes to war for 10 years? Seriously, nothing was happening. I mean, if there was actual, I don't know, fighting on a continuous way and there was pushing back and pushing back, I don't know, gaining territory, losing territory and stuff like that, but nothing was happening and they just stayed there for 10 years. Seriously, I don't know, maybe it's just my brain that doesn't get it. But from my perspective, it's very much masculine ego type of situation that is involved. So maybe my, feminine brain does not reach the depths of despair of losing the pretty Helen to another man, to launch 1,000 ships to get her back and stay there for 10 years and then, make this atrocity of conquering Troy. Either way, let's get back. The Cicons fight the troops from Odyssey and stuff like that. They lose quite a few men there, but they are able to escape and then they continue their journey. Again, instead of going their happy way, they go to another island, and that island is the island of Lotus Eaters. As the name indicates, the island of Lotus Eaters is where people eat a certain type of lotus flower that makes you forget things, basically. And in this case, the crew and the Odysseus, they do eat the lotus flower. This is something that also differs in the movie, because in the movie, it is Calypso that is feeding lotus flower to Odysseus, but in the original story, that is not the case. So they eat the lotus flower, and the soldiers kind of eat the lotus flower because they, in a way, have this post-traumatic stress or trauma that is reaching to them now. And obviously, they just want to forget the atrocities that were committed. That's my perspective from the original poem. You may have a different opinion, but again, that's just me interpreting the poem itself. And at a certain point, there are two sides that I'm kind of following, because I do believe that Odysseus did not eat the lotus flower as much as the other um, soldiers, because he did want to suffer. So he did want to stay inside of his drama and stuff like that. And so he did not eat as much lotus flower as the other soldiers, although they stayed on this island for a while until Odysseus was like fed up with the situation and said, hey, stop eating the flower. And once you stop eating the flower, you regain your memories. And they went on their happy way again. But of course, as we already know, they did go on their happy way, but they did not go into the direction of Ithaca. I seriously, like, it's such a small sea with so many islands. Like, I don't know how you could get lost as many times as they did. Although from the other side, I do believe that it's just a play of gods on them. I think that that's the entire reason why so many things are happening. From my perspective, this entire story is a play of gods on these people. And of course, the consequences of actions that they have done and stuff like that. But either way, after the lotus eating, they go to another island, and this island is full of cyclops. So they also are trying to find food there. They find this cave. Actually, they find sheep, and sheep go to this cave, and they find all kinds of meat and cheese and whatever in the cave. So I do think that they do bring something to kind of exchange, or at least Odysseus sends just a group of people this time instead of everyone going, because they learned from the past visits that if everyone goes, then, everyone is going to suffer. So this time he doesn't bring everyone, although he goes as well. So for the situation, I do believe they brought like wine or something to make this trade with whomever was living on the island, but they did not know that who lived on the island were cyclops. They are giant creatures with just one eye, and most of them are also sons of either gods or titans. And so the cave that they stumble upon is the cave of a son of Poseidon. I can't remember the name. Polyphemus is the Cyclops name. It's good that I have my notes here on the side. Anyway, but once he arrives to the cave, they see him. He doesn't react very well that they are there, even though they are bringing the wine with them, to offer him for the sheep and the cheese and whatever. So they are trapped in the cave, and there are quite a few graphic scenes in the movie in this section that I did not think that should have been as graphic, but then there are other scenes as well that are very much more graphic than this one. So anyway, but what happens is that the Cyclops, he in kind of a way of intimidating them, because they arrived uninvited to his cave, he kind of crushes two soldiers from the crew, and he eats them basically. And so they are trapped in this cave because the Cyclops closes the door to the cave with a huge stone. And so they decide to kind of, I don't know, speak with him and blah, 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 try to entertain him in a way to, again, offer him the wine so he gets drunk, and so they can poke him in the eye. That's the plan. In the movie itself, the Cyclops, they don't know that he speaks basically until like the last moments. So yeah, quite different from the story itself. Either way, they do succeed to make the Cyclops drunk. He falls asleep, and they poke him in the eye. And then obviously he goes blind, but they cannot kill him because they need him to remove the stone to get out of the cave. And so the Cyclops is also not very, smart. Before I go to that, I did mention that there were other Cyclops on the island, and the Odysseus did use a trick because when he was poking the Cyclops' eye, uh, the Cyclop obviously spoke, he yelled, and other Cyclops ran to the yelling. And while the door was closed, the Cyclop was yelling, "Nobody is killing me! Nobody is killing me!" And Odysseus introduced himself to Cyclops as nobody instead of Odysseus, and that's why the Cyclops was yelling, "Nobody is killing me!" And so the Cyclops, the other Cyclops, thought that, okay, nothing is happening, let's just chill. Maybe he's yelling because, I don't know, Cyclops activities. I have no idea. So that's the situation. Then to get out of the cave, of course, they need the Cyclops to remove the door, which he does every day to let his ship go, roam around the island. And so in order to escape, they kind of tie themselves on the bottom of the ships. So again, a difference from a movie there, but whatever. And they escape because obviously the Cyclops was touching the top of the ships, but not the bottom. And so they were able to escape. And yeah, some of them, quite a few of them, actually did die on this island because Cyclops was eating them every time that he returned until they kind of mastered this plan. So again, they mastered this plan, they run away from the island of the Cyclops, but as we well know, they did not go on their happy way home. No, the next island that they reached was Aeolia, which is the island of the Keeper of Winds. So Aeolus means kind of wind, or again, similar to wind in Greek. And so he was the master of the winds. He listened to the story that they told him. He kind of offered food, and they stayed there for a while on this island. And he actually was very much benevolent to the Odysseus and his crew. So since he was the master of winds, he gathered all the storms and all the unnecessary winds into like a leather bag, and he just left like a soft breeze that would take them straight to Ithaca, basically. So he gave them food, goat, and stuff like that, and they went on their happy way. And they were almost reaching Ithaca. In the story itself, I do think that they kind of already see the shores of Ithaca, and then the crew are like, I don't know, like ain't nobody smart in there. But anyway, including Odysseus. But like they were given the opportunity, like the god or the master of winds, this demigod, gave them this opportunity to like have the wind being so favorable that it was taking them directly with no storms, no nothing, to their home. But no. Basically, what happened, they saw this leather bag where all the storms were gathered, and they opened it because they thought that it had some gold that Odysseus had not mentioned to them. And so that's what basically happened. And yeah, all the storms came out all of a sudden, and of course, what that did was to just push them out of the way home, and they were lost yet again. They were actually taken back to the Aeolus island, but once he saw what happened, or like they explained what happened, he was not happy about it, and he was like, you know what, F off. And so they had to go on their happy way alone, with no support from the wind gods this time. So the next island is another island with giants, and I do think that the name is Laestrygonia, unless I am mispronouncing that. Probably I am, but nobody cares, right? So this is another island with giants. They are not as big as the Cyclops, and they do have both eyes, but they are human-like, but cannibalistic towards humans. They are described cannibalistic, but like if they are their own species of giants, I don't know. But basically, they eat humans, and they live on this island with huge cliffs. So what happens? They fight at the start because the crew goes to the island, as always, in search of I don't know what. Like, are they starving this hard, or like, how much food do you need? Like, they have taken food from quite a few places now. So anyway, but they went to the island. They did leave a couple of ships next to the cliffs, and Odysseus actually left his main boat further away in the harbor. So that was the only surviving ship that they had, and most of the other ships, or all the other ships, were just stone. And quite a bit of people also died on this island because the giants were very ruthless. They didn't like no negotiation, anything. Like there was nothing pleasant about this encounter. They just fought directly. They were defeated. They run away. Whomever was saved only because the ship that was left further away in the harbor. So here they are traveling again, and the next island is the island of Aea, which is the island of Circe. Here again, there is quite a difference that is shown from the movie to the real story. The island of Aea was very beautiful, actually. It had this luxurious kind of tropical air to it. At least, again, from my perspective, from the story, there was a very beautiful palace, and in the palace, you would see all these wild animals, lions and tigers and whatever, roaming around and just chilling in their own corners. And Circe herself was very pretty, so she was a witch goddess. Or she is a witch goddess. So this is the original description of this island and of Circe herself. In the movie, they are showing this very cold air to the island. It looks, I even said to like my friend that I went to the movies with, I was like, is this like Scotland or whatever? Because it looked like shores of Scotland, not like Mediterranean, the Mediterranean Sea and the islands in the Mediterranean. It was cold, it was rainy, I actually think it was snowing at some point. It was very gloomy, and the Circe was living in this like hut situation. Again, it looked very much like what we think the stereotypical witch look from like medieval times. So this woman, she was living there alone, obviously, and they arrived, and she transforms them in pigs. This scene is very graphic. When they were showing it, I could not watch the entire scene. I don't know why. It was just done in such a way that it looked, I don't know, just despicable. In any case, again, she is. I'm not going to say that the actress itself looks or is ugly, but they made her look a bit more ugly than, the other women in comparison in the movie, which is unfortunate because Circe is a huge character in the story itself, and they have not given her the credit that she deserves. But obviously, this is a Nolan's movie, so who is surprised, right? This is just a sausage fest situation, and as I already mentioned, the man is simping about Agamemnon, so there we go. But in the movie, that's what happens. She's quite ugly. They eat, she offers food, they eat, she transforms them into pigs. And then Odyssey, because he stayed behind, he did not want to go. He found the situation a bit suspicious, this luxurious island with weird, all kind of things. And then he goes after, and he kind of tricks her in the movie. Okay, there's like a raven on the table, and he kind of knows that the raven is someone precious to Circe, which supposedly is her sister that she transformed into raven because she was annoying to Circe, which is not what it is in the original story. Okay. Anyway, very witch-like, very dark, very not what it is in reality. So in reality, it was a fancy place full of gold, full of riches. She was very pretty. She was indeed the goddess of witchcraft, and she did transform the soldiers, the crew, into pigs, but not the way that, was shown in the movie. Then Odysseus, he does arrive, and with the help of, I think it was Hermes or someone else, I think it was Hermes, yes, the messenger of gods, who arrives to the island and helps him understand that who lives here is someone, you know, a big deal. Like, she is a goddess, she is mighty, you should be careful, basically. And this is something, again, that doesn't happen in the movie. So, with the advice from Hermes, he goes to Circe's palace. They start chatting and stuff like that. And at certain point, something else that I forgot, Hermes does advise him to eat something or drink something, but basically what makes him immune to Circe's magic. So she offers him wine and food and whatever, which is the way that she actions her magic, and he is immune to her magic. And she is kind of very curious to that because obviously he's the first person that is immune to her magic, and so again, they start chatting more. Something else that is not shown in the movie but happens in the original story, Odysseus does stay for quite a while before he requests Circe to transform his crew back into people from pigs, and they became lovers, and they do have a son together. So Odysseus and Circe have a son. She does like him quite a bit, and that's why she plays a major role, because she tells him how he can get home, basically. Again, she's very wise. She is a goddess after all. She knows that the gods are playing with him. This is a play with Poseidon as well, because if we go back to the Cyclops situation, as I mentioned, that Cyclops was a son of Poseidon. He did tell his father that Odysseus was there and he blinded him. I did mention that Odysseus at first said that his name was Nobody, but when they were leaving, he yelled at the Cyclops that his name is Odysseus, and he was the one who blinded him. And so, obviously, from his own ego, Odysseus has now the anger of Poseidon on his back. And so Circe tells him this because she is aware of the situation, and she also tells how to avoid this entire situation, although she does mention that his destiny is to arrive home, and like I do think that she knows that his crew, nobody is gonna get back. But so then he is certain of this. She tells him to go into the underworld, so then he can get this information from like a wise man who lives in the underworld, and so they do. So Odysseus, with his crew that now has been transformed back from pigs to people, are going to the underworld, and that's where they speak with the dead. Besides speaking with the dead, they speak with this wise man whose name is Tiresias, and basically what he tells them is that no matter what you do, either don't go to this specific island, or if you do go, do not kill the cattle of Apollo. So there are cows involved, and it's very specific that he tells them to not do. So all of them hear this. In the movie, supposedly only Odysseus is able to listen to this part. So again, something different from the original story, where in the original story, everybody from the crew knew what happened. Back to when they went to the Windmaster Island, they did know that what was in the bag was the storms, and like they also knew about the gold. They were just thinking that, oh my god, this is extra gold, somebody's fooling us, like Odysseus is fooling us. Anyway, these people being the on the edge of their smartness. But anyway, so they go to the underworld, they speak with the dead, they speak with this wise man, and he advised them to please do not at any point go to this island or eat the cows. But they do go on their merry way, and what they do, they continue hungry. So now they leave the underworld and they have all this knowledge that first Circe shared with Odysseus, and second the underworld dead people shared as well. But they will have to go through the waters where the sirens live. And the Circe, of course, master of all the wiseness, she did tell and give Odysseus beeswax, so that she tell him that you have to cover your ears with beeswax so then you don't hear them singing. And that's what he does with everyone else except himself. So he decides to be tied to the boat, and so he is able to listen the sirens singing, and he pleads with everyone to again untie him, but they don't, because obviously they don't hear him. Except that this is a very cruel fact or cruel act that he does, because something that you may have not known, the sirens have this ability, but there's a curse on them. Obviously, they have their own story, which I'm not going to into, but the curse for them to sing and kind of lure men to them has a backside, or like a dark side. If someone hears the siren song and they do not go to them, the sirens will die. So basically, it was a very cruel act from Odysseus' side. Obviously, he did not know, but he also did not have to stay listening to the song. He just wanted to listen. He wanted to be the only person who listened to the siren song and survived. And so all the sirens died after that because he survived. Anyway, that's another maybe curious fact that is hidden in the story. But yeah, in the movie itself, it's exactly the same. He's tied to the boat and they go on their merry way. When he says that he heard a song about all the things that he wanted to be and did not get to be, and blah blah blah, something very deep and philosophical for the 6th grade teenager. So in the next part of their journey, they supposedly pass through this very narrow passage in the sea, and on one side of the passage you have this water whirlpool, basically, where their ship is going to be taken out. On the other side, they have this monster who has 6 heads and obviously will catch 6 men. So Odysseus decides to sacrifice 6 men instead of sacrificing all of them technically and the boat, and so there are 6 men captured. And with this disaster happening, the crew is very much upset with the Odysseus, because technically they did not know this part. This was the part that Circe told Odysseus only. He knew about it. He decided to sacrifice his men, and that decision brought them to kind of major disagreement. As you may imagine, it has been now quite a few years that they are traveling around. Please do keep in mind that they stayed for quite a while on Circe's island, so much so that again she had a child from Odysseus, but the disagreement was already growing from all the time they have been traveling. So either way, now it's the part that brings them to like kind of end of the crew and everyone, and is the part where they go to the island where the cattle of Apollo lives. And the island is called Thrinacia. Okay, Thrinacia is the island they all know about, the ultimate telling that ain't nobody's eating the cows. The cows are sacred. They are Apollo cattle. Nobody can eat it. All know about it, and they do kind of survive for quite a bit without eating the cows. Um, this is exactly the same in the movie as well, but the original story, they do eat the cattle. They wait until Odysseus is asleep, and they eat the cows. And actually, they stay on the island because there were quite a few storms going on. Again, going back to Poseidon, Poseidon was unhappy with Odysseus and the crew, and so he was making the seas very unbearable, basically. In any case, the storm passes once they eat the cows. I think that in the original story, they eat all the cows, and in the movie, they just eat one. But again, also like the hunger is the ultimate enemy of these. I don't know. I don't even know what to call them, because obviously they are viewed as heroes. But from my perspective, there's absolutely nothing heroic in any of their actions, like starting from the Iliad. Again, personal opinion. So anyway, they eat the cows. Apollo is mad. Poseidon all of a sudden decides to stop the storm, but it was kind of calm before the ultimate hit, because Apollo goes to Zeus, and Zeus is like, you know what, I'm done with you, Ishes. So he strikes the ship. It is broken, and the storm was already ongoing at the time. The ship is broken. Everyone from the crew dies except the Odysseus. And this is the time that he goes to Calypso. Calypso, again, another major figure in the story that was not as credited as I would like her to be in the movie. Again, she does have this like kind of mental journey with Odysseus in the movie, but in the story itself, she is kind of his therapist and lover and all the other things. But anyway, so he is brought to the island of Calypso. She saves him. She is also helping him with, again, this journey, mental journey. She likes him very much. They become lovers for quite a while. In the story itself, she kind of keeps him a prisoner on the island. He supposedly cries every day on the shore of the sea because he's missing his wife Penelope. I haven't gone there yet, because obviously the story is that on the other side, so back home in Ithaca, Penelope is waiting patiently for Odysseus to come back. And it has been 20 years that she is waiting. And there are like many suitors that kind of occupied his house or his castle, and they are just waiting for her to kind of choose another man to marry, which she refuses. And obviously, because she's very faithful, very wise, she is quite wise. Like in the story, I'm skipping her part a little bit because, I mean, I don't know, like she is wise on her own, but the fact that she is so loyal to Odysseus, who is like having his best time with other women, like Circe. Again, they had a child together, so he stayed for a while. He stayed with Calypso for quite a while as well, even though again he was unwillingly being kind of imprisoned on the island with Calypso. But either way, Penelope is back home fighting with the suitors. She doesn't want to marry anyone. And yeah, that's the whole situation. So back to Calypso. She lives on the island of Ogygia. She also is, again, a goddess. She is a daughter of a titan, so kind of one of the, on the level of like original gods. Basically, very powerful. Again, she is in love with Odysseus, and she wants him to stay. She makes him stay for quite a while. She offers him like immortality and other things, whatever, riches, immortalities. Again, she's very pretty and rich and whatever, powerful. But yeah, supposedly he was like, no, but I want my wife. I really want to go home now that I've been, out for 20 years. I think it's time to go home. Not that I had slept with many women and had children with other women, but who I really want is Penelope. Oh well, Greek mythology, right? So he pleads with Athena, who is, again, a huge part of his journey. She is very present and kind of supports him. This is also shown in the movie, although in a very poor way. So I think that in the movie, the Athena is shown like in this, I don't know, I just felt like Zendaya run away from Dune, with same kind of vests and stuff like that, and was participating in this movie. Like, this is Athena that we are talking about. Like, she was the main goddess at the time, and she was the goddess of war and warriors and soldiers. Like, she should have been represented as someone like a major god in the movie. And the way that she was represented, it was so poor, because it supposedly was the girl from Troy that that they cut her head off. Like, seriously, I don't know. Again, spoiler alert, you already know. But I thought that it was such a unfortunate representation of Athena. Again, I cannot stand the fact that they did her so wrong. I'm not saying that Zendaya I'm not saying that I don't like the casting, because people were like arguing about Helen being not the way that they imagined it. I have no problem with the casting, although I don't like some of the actors, and I do believe that they could have done better. But at the end, my problem is not with the casting, is the way that the story was represented, is the way that female characters and the gods were absent from this story. And like, I know that the idea that I heard somewhere that they wanted the story to be represented as if it was real, but how can you represent something like that real? Like, there are, again, gods involved. We have Cyclops, we have sirens, we have giants, we have gods of wind, we have Calypso, like, we have Circe, the goddess of the witch goddess. Like, how can you represent it from a way that it could be real? Like, you cannot. You cannot, because the real world doesn't have magic. Period. Or gods. But that's a whole other story. So anyway, going back to the Ogygia island where Odysseus is with Calypso, he really prays to Athena, who is kind of his protector and whatever throughout all this journey. And he speaks to her a lot during the entire journey, like especially on the boat or in the situation that of this despair. So he pleads with her. She goes to everyone who is mad with Odysseus, and basically they let them leave. So they kind of speak with Calypso. I think that Zeus orders Hermes to go to Calypso and tell her, yo, let him go. And that's it. So Calypso helps him to like make a makeshift boat or whatever, and he goes. But not everyone was pleaded with during the situation, because we have our ultimate pissed off god, Poseidon. He was not included in the pleading. Athena did not plead with him or whatever, and he tries to drown Odysseus. He's not able to, though, and he reaches the shores of Ithaca, finally. After 10 years of war plus 10 years in the sea, obviously he did not spend all the time in the sea, but he did spend some time with Circe and then with Calypso and then, all the other islands. But he goes back And this part of the story, again, I don't find it very, I don't know, important or interesting. Either way, he reaches the shores. He goes to the palace disguised as a beggar, which Athena helps him with. And what they do basically, he and his son, this is exactly the same as in the movie, they plan to kill all the suitors that are, present in the palace. So he is still disguised as a beggar, old beggar man, and he goes there, and obviously we have the test, right, with all the axes. I don't know how many axes, I think it was like 12 axes. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And the bow, the Odysseus bow, that is not, the string is not put into the main body of the bow. So the test that Penelope goes for, a very smart woman, but again, I don't think her wits are worth, or she is like, Odysseus is not worthy of Penelope, in my opinion. My opinion only. But yeah, the bow, nobody is able to, put the string into the bow. Then the beggar asks to do that. Everyone laughs, and he does it. He does put the string into the bow, and then he's able to shoot the bow through the axis. And then once everyone realizes that is Odysseus, he starts to shooting everyone, and then his son, who hid all the weapons, all the swords and whatever while the test was ongoing, and one other servant or whatever, and they start killing all the suitors basically. And yeah, so they do kill everyone, and yeah, Odysseus survives, and that's how the story ends. And peace returns to Ithaca, whatever. In the movie, this part of the movie is kind of, again, unnecessarily dramatic, because again, spoiler alert, but there's this scene with Athena where he kind of visualizes the conquest of Troy, and when at the certain time they captured a girl, which was Zendaya, or who was portraying Athena this entire time, and the girl is beheaded at the same time that they kind of cut the head of the statue of Athena. That's why he is associating that girl with Athena. And that there's this moment where like Athena is like reaching with her hand, and I was like, what a pathetic kind of situation. Like, this is, again, like, this is Athena that we are talking about. Like, how can you represent her like that? I don't know. It's just, in my head, it cannot be like that. And I thought about it really hard. And then I even went back and like reading through the lines of the poem, and I was like, how can they do these goddesses so badly? But again, I'm gonna say it again, this is Nolan. Anyway, fight me on it. But yeah, I mean, that's the full story, original story, comparing to the movie. As I said at the beginning, I did not necessarily dislike the movie. It's just that I do think that they were hoping, as I said, people knowing the story going into it, and knowing that they had this really cool idea of like representing it in kind of close proximity to reality. From my perspective, that was a failure. Like, for me, that was a complete failure representation of Odyssey. Even though the movie on its own stands alone okay, but the story of Odyssey for me is a story of play of gods, and how they were involved with people, and how they were involved with destiny of these people, these kind of heroes and wars, and how they were mixed into these activities that were happening. And for me, that's the the whole fascination of these stories like Iliad and Odyssey and just mythology in general. I love mythology, and that's why I'm doing this video, and that's why I'm a little bit upset on the opportunity what the Odyssey could have been but was not. And so from my perspective, I don't know, would I watch the movie again? Absolutely not. I will never get those 3 hours of my life back. Seriously, like my friend got like one of her veins popped in the eye because the air was so dry in the cinema, and like we were sitting there with no pause. Also, I can blame the German cinemas, right? Who, like, seriously, if someone who is managing German cinema is watching this, which I doubt, but if somebody who's managing German cinemas, why don't you make a break in the middle of the movie? People want to go to the toilet. People want to rest their eyes. People want to go get some water or whatever. Like, seriously, it's a 3 hour movie that I was sitting there and I'm like, come on. Anyway, my recommendation, if you want to kind of, I don't know, if you would like to watch the movie, watch the movie. Now, if you watch this video, you know how it compares to the real story. If you don't want to watch the movie, go watch Troy movie, okay? The one with Eric Bana. I'm not a fan of Brad Pitt, but that movie is amazing. Like, in comparison to the Odyssey, Nolan's Odyssey, it's got nothing on Troy. Again, my personal opinion. So if you want to watch something epic, something about Troy, something about Iliad or Odyssey, go watch Troy. That's my recommendation, and that's the end of the video. A bit of a different video. Again, I was very opinionated, no script, so I may cut quite a few parts, but I think that I was trying to be as eloquent as possible. I try to speak fast. I try to translate my thoughts into speech as effectively as I could. So there we go. I hope you enjoy this video, and I will see you next time.